Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. And as always, I'm very glad that you guys had the opportunity to join us here today. So, once again, what you're going to notice is I'm not here alone. I have a guest with me again today. And with me today is Huenu Solsona. And of course, we've had the opportunity to chat together once before, and we're going to do that again today. And last time, what we did is we introduced you to a very nice platform that Huenu and some of her associates have put together, something that provides you guys with some really nice opportunities to gain deeper information about yourself. And so today, what we thought we would do was to chat a little bit about the mix between maybe how you can get information, where you can get information about self, of course, about your journey, about your exploration, and maybe how you might apply that in our upcoming year, into the things that are going to be happening this year potentially, into the way that our world is shifting. And perhaps maybe we could say, in regard to the world that you want to find yourself within, because the way that you approach things has quite a bit to do with that, does it not? So, before we go any further, let me welcome my incredible guest, Huenu. It's very nice to be with you again. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you, Chuck. It's wonderful to be here again and looking forward to chatting with you and your audience. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Very nice to, as I said, be with you once again. Um, so, one of the things that I thought maybe we would chat about is, you know, this exploration of ours. Whether you call it a spiritual exploration, a metaphysical exploration, some people might term it a religious exploration, whatever it might happen to be, is for a number of us, and I guess I'll say a growing number of us around the planet, probably the foundational aspect of how we approach our life now. We've learned to, I think anyway, to fold everything else into our life into that, to use that exploration as kind of the backdrop, the foundation possibly of how it is that we explore life. And I think that's because of the quality that we've come to understand it can give to our life, everything that we do in our life. And so, in that, I thought it might be fun for us. And of course, we both had this idea to talk a little bit about that exploration, to talk about maybe the various ways that people can do that and how does that affect an individual's life? How does it help them to have the kind of experience in their life that they'd like to have? And so maybe I'll point that in your direction for a little bit and see
Did you
kind
mean
of
like
what
an
you're
inner
thinking in that
exploration?
regard.
Is that what
So why don't you go
you
ahead?
said? I just missed the
Sure.
beginning.
Absolutely, yeah. An inner exploration. Those of us
Okay.
who do this, who are
Yeah.
involved in this exploration, have very much applied that to our, I guess I'll say, quote unquote, regular lives. And so, if you were going to think about the advantages that you see in doing that, how would you describe that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Chuck, I mean, I imagine that your audience is aware, in general terms, of the benefit, and they have probably felt it themselves in their own lives. And I think that sometimes when we start delving into that inner exploration, we start seeing the benefits and we start wanting to do it a little bit more, and we grow in that way of living, I guess. So everybody starts, I guess, at some point asking some questions about who are they and what is it that we're meant to be doing here. And maybe it starts with a traumatic event in their lives, or maybe it's something that that they know that they need to change, and they get into a spiritual, let's call it, way of living. And then we start seeing the benefits of that, and we start wanting more and more and more, and we really start incorporating it into our lives. Now, if I talk from personal experience, I've been on I would say, spiritual journey since 2009, because my brother passed away in that year. And every day or every month or every year, I certainly incorporated more and more. And we do that in so many ways, but I would say that the overarching theme would be to take a look at our inner state, right? Instead of focusing on the outside, is focusing on the inside. And how we focus on the inside is multifold, but for the most part, it's just quieting the mind in whichever way that may be. Of course, meditation, but it could be something like yoga, it could be walks in nature, it could be just sometimes sitting and doing nothing, which is so rare for us, to just sit and just breathe for a second. And it doesn't have to necessarily be called meditation, but just to just pause, right? And I think that what that does to our lives is that, again, take the focus out of everything that's going on around us, the outer world, and just bring it in and connect ourselves with our higher selves, connect ourselves with our soul, with who it is that we really, really are. And in that doing, a lot of stuff opens up, a lot of sometimes new ideas, creativity, answers. It's funny. Sometimes we look for solutions so hard, and we really try hard with our minds to find the solution. And all it takes is actually not trying that hard and just being a little bit quieter. I mean, really could be 5 minutes, just breathing, centering ourselves, just coming back. And there's many ways people do this as well. It's like, whether it's a breathing, but just pausing, and hey, clarity comes about. So for me, it's fundamental, it's huge. I do it as often as I can. I do it at night a lot. I'm a bit of a I just find my quiet time at night, but it's great for people that can do it in the morning. I think that's even better. But it doesn't really matter when you do it during the day. It's just pausing. And it really does bring so many benefits. I mean, I don't even have to go into the benefits of meditation. They're just everywhere. And then the science has caught up to it as well. It's just wonderful. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the point that you made where you talked about how it's very important for us to bring things back in. And in that, so many times it's very natural for us, for individuals, to be focused on what's happening around them and to be responding or reacting to what it is that's going on around them, right? One of the things that I like about this journey is that when you understand how large the part you play in what type of things happening around you are, in other words, when you understand that the way that you're interpreting all the things that are happening out there, as well as all the things that's happening inside you, like the psychological things, the emotional things, when all those things come together, you as consciousness then project that out there and you create your reality with all of that. And so as individuals begin to understand the depth of how consciousness functions, how their own consciousness functions, then they learn, I think, why it's so important to pay attention to what's going on within them. How am I responding to what's happening out there? Why am I responding the way that I'm responding to what's happening out there, right? How would I really like to do it? What choice would I really like to make here, right? And so, yeah, I see that, the things that you're talking about there are so very important for individuals. Again, in my journey, come to understand those things and experience those things in a very powerful way, where if you understand when there are challenges out there, that those challenges have shown up in your life to give you information to say, hey, here's one way again here that you could maybe choose to look at things just a little bit differently. And you catch that and you go, okay, you understand that, the things around you aren't just happening for the regular reasons why things happen out in the world. Not that you don't interact with it that way, but you understand that there's this other layer there too. And so you're always paying attention. You learn to always pay attention to that other layer that's going on, that informational layer that's there to provide you with a little bit of something that maybe we'll say happens behind the scenes, where you've got the inner you tapping you on the shoulder and providing you with a little bit of information about something. And so, yeah, I think that this particular journey, regardless of how you want to get into this journey, helps that to happen for individuals where they become increasingly familiar with paying attention to the information that shows up from within themselves, as well as aware of how that information shows up. And then they apply it to the kind of experience that they want to have in their life. It just doesn't
Yeah.
become a life where all you're doing is responding to the things that are happening outside of you and around you. It becomes a life where you're choosing within yourself how you want to direct yourself within your life. Maybe I can say it like that. And through
Yeah.
that, of course, you let life be what it is, but you choose how you want to interact with that life as it comes to you. And in my experience, anyway, what I've seen is that through that, you really have a very full experience of life that shows up for you. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a very nice way to do things.
I think you make, yeah, a super valid point, and maybe I'd like to touch on something related to that. Is that for the most part, human beings, we really love to blame and we love to play the victim role. And it's, I would say if you look at humanity as a whole, people think that it's always an external thing that caused them to be in the situation that they are. My parents did this to me, then my teacher, then my husband, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my kids, my school. It's like it's never us. And maybe every now and again they'll admit, okay, cool, I could have done that differently. But you know what? This happened to me. So we are sort of wired to blame it all on the outside world. And it's funny, like we don't really see how we've created that. I'll give an example of a friend that I actually saw recently, and he said to me, I really can't find a job. I've been looking, and this happened, and then how can this be? Then this happened, and this happened, and this happened. But then I look at him, and I I can see from my perspective why would have happened to him, right? So this is a silly example, but for example, his spelling is terrible. And I said, well, I wouldn't hire somebody that spells like that. But now he wouldn't see that. He would just see that somebody, didn't give him the job. Or, maybe some of the things or the way that he says certain things. So it's not also to put blame on people. It's not, it's not about beating yourself up about something. But the truth is, you are creating your reality all of the time. And even if something happens to you that seems to be out of the blue, it's probably circumstance of something that's been going on for a long time and eventually boils over. Again, talking to a friend, and she had this fallout with this other friend, and she called her some names, and I realized that was the tip of the iceberg. So the friend was maybe out of line, but because it had been going on for so long, she kind of burst. So again, it's we really do bring all of this into our reality, maybe not right there and then, but by things that we've done all along. And also we really have free will to choose how we want to react to something. Something could happen, and sure, that happened, but we really have the power to be affected by it, talk about it, not talk about it, focus on it, not focus on it. People say, for example, to me, I should read the news or I should be aware of what's going on. And I'm quite a die-hard devotee of not watching the news at all. And I mean, look, you might say, oh, that's right, that's wrong. Well, you can have your opinion about it. But I have found that when I watch the news, I don't feel very good. I really don't feel very good. I feel frustrated. I feel angry. I feel just upset about everything. And if I'm not going to do something about it, what is the use of this piece of news entering my life? It's just making me feel bad. So I choose not to listen to the news, and I know that if it's something big, I'm going to hear about it. But then that I'm choosing that, right? I'm choosing not to do that. I'm choosing not to focus my attention there. And in the same way, whatever might be happening around me, do I want to focus on it or do I not want to focus on it? And if it's something that's not going to bring anything good to my life, I personally choose to focus on something else that will bring something good to my life. And that's how we create our reality. that's what that means too, is like focusing our attention into the things that we want to be living or that we don't want to be living. The truth is we're creating our reality all of the time. And even if somebody tells you something that hurts you or you don't like, you can, again, you'll only feel bad if you take it in. You'll only feel bad if you accept that and if you believe it. Let's say somebody walking across the road shouts at me and tells me, you are this. Now obviously I'm not gonna believe them because this person doesn't know me, and I know that I'm not those things. But let's say a person that's closer to me said something like that to me. Now it will upset me if I know it's true, right? If somebody says you are inconsiderate, and I know that I've been a little bit inconsiderate, then I will be hurt because I will go, damn, that's true. But if I know that I haven't been inconsiderate at all, and if I know that I've been a really good person, and if they say that to me, I can say, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but maybe you feel that way because XYZ, or because you've had that experience with somebody else, but I know that I haven't been, so it doesn't actually upset me. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I really do think we should all like pay a little more attention to how we live our lives and how we react to things. Why are we reacting to things? And another thing I just quickly want to say is that I do think that when we come into this life, there are some soul contracts that we have to experience. So for me, like the biggest thing that happened in my life was my brother passing away. We were very close and all that. So I think that that was a soul contract, that I came here wanting that experience for the purpose of me growing and, in fact, doing the things that I'm doing today, right? That was part of my journey. So I think that there are certain, and this is my personal opinion, hey, I think that there are certain soul contracts that we came here to experience. But then the little things that happen every day, that is just total free will, and we can react to that in any way that we want every single day. And I think that if you live in accordance to your values and you're true to you, you should for the most part have a pretty good life, because you shouldn't be so affected by everything that happens around you. Yeah.
To kind of address what you've just said, absolutely, I see the same things. And one of the things that's happened for me is, of course, recognizing the way that other individuals can have the tendency to, I guess, consider themselves to be a victim of whatever it might happen to be, is something that definitely can be noticed. But the more important thing to me, as you of course mentioned as well, is to pay attention to myself and when I'm doing those things. You know,
Mm.
um, and as you were pointing out, one of the themes that we're playing out, I see in this particular experience that we're having, is we're going from a place where we basically had no idea that there was more going on than what we thought was going on. In other words, we thought we were just our human bodies, right? Most people start their journey in that way. And then in this time period now, what's going on is that it is becoming easier and easier and easier for individuals to become aware that there is more happening here than what, I guess I'll call it, maybe consensus reality says is what's going on, right? The world that is largely brought to you through your five senses, used in the typical way anyway. And so once you begin to become familiar with that in whatever way your journey begins, your journey began in the way that you mentioned it. Mine was a little bit different. Mine opened up to me because of a profession that I got myself into. I got into a particular branch of healthcare, an alternative way of seeing things. And through that, I was introduced to a large cross section of individuals. And they were doing many things, lots of metaphysical, spiritually oriented things. And so my journey opened up like that. Although it's interesting because I was raised in a religious kind of a family. And so I attended church all the time when I was a kid. And then I moved away from that for a considerable chunk in my life, and really didn't have any interest in those types of themes, the deeper themes of life at all. And then that was reignited in me through what I was doing for people in healthcare. My desire to look within again was reignited and took a different form, of course. It was different than what it was originally. It wasn't part of a package that was, I guess, circumscribed in a particular way. It was something that was much more open and much freer. And that was, 30 years ago. And so now in all that exploration, what can occur with individuals is that you have a much larger awareness. And a lot of that, for me anyway, seems to come through the experiences that you've had too. When you've done this for a certain length of time, you have enough experiences that give it a reality, if I can use that word, that it becomes more than just theory. It becomes more than just something that has been read someplace or whatever. It's kind of like there's a number of examples I use, but it's like, if somebody has never eaten a particular kind of a dish, sometimes I say a banana split, you could have eaten all the things that make up that banana split separately. Or maybe you're a chemist and you know all the various molecular ways that all that stuff goes together. So you know it from that aspect of things. But until you eat it, you really don't know it experientially, and that's true of anything. Regardless of what somebody does, you don't know what that is until you actually do it, until you have the experience of it. And so this journey is a little bit like that too. The more experiences you have, and especially as those experiences get deeper, it gives I guess I'll use that word, it makes it more real for you. It makes it more tangible for you because you've seen how there's an interface that goes on between the information that you've gotten about what's happening and the experiences that have shown you that, yeah, in fact, it goes on like that because, they've intermeshed with, the regular world around you in a way that shows you that, there's a whole bunch of information out there that you can get about how things are moving, how things are playing out, what you can do in those circumstances, how they can help you and other individuals in the circumstances. And you've seen it happen so very frequently. And so I think you become more comfortable with the exploration. You
Yeah.
become more willing to allow various things to
Yeah.
come into your life. And in that, your horizons broaden. And so understanding that you're the one that's creating your reality is very much a part of all of that. When an individual finds themselves in that place through whatever journey that they've taken, I believe, and I think you're probably there as well, it's a very powerful thing to understand. And when you begin to understand the mechanisms of that, how that shows up in your life, how all these various things are woven together to bring you the experience that you're having in your life, again, it becomes a very powerful thing. You understand that none of the things that you thought were once going on in your life the way you thought they were going on are actually the way things are occurring. They're occurring in a much different way. As you've said, you can look around you
Yeah.
and you can see
I
various
mean,
individuals. Go ahead. Yeah, I think follow that thought, whatever thought was coming up. Go ahead and follow that thought and
yeah.
express that. Because, you know, when one of the things that I've seen in my existence is that
Mm.
as this becomes the natural part of your life, as this just becomes your life, it becomes very easy to see, and it's not a judgmental way, it's just observation. It becomes very easy to see why people are struggling with the way that they still see the world, with the way that they are choosing to interact with the world. And again, it's not that it's wrong, it's just that it brings a particular outcome with it. And so you really come to understand in a very powerful way that this exploration changes your understanding of your existence and how your existence comes about in a fashion that you can now do something about it. Now, we can have people say, yeah, well, how about this guy over there that's the billionaire, or this actor over
Yeah.
here, or
Okay.
this
Yeah.
artist over here, and they don't
Absolutely.
do
And
those kind of things.
like, Yeah, yeah. So, so it's so true. It's so true what you say. Okay. Okay, I'll go. Um, So it's so true what you said about people needing to have an experience in order to understand this a little bit deeper, because you could read 1,000 books, and that's all theory, and you might even wrap your head around it, but you really have to start experiencing it. And look, I think that meditation is a must, quite frankly, but it could be through other means. As soon as you start experiencing all of that theory in your life and feeling it and feeling your soul and connecting with this reality in a different way, you and perhaps having specific experiences or certain dreams or massive coincidences that could never happen, or you might be thinking about a friend you haven't thought about for years, and then they call you. That is mathematically almost impossible. And you start having more and more of these experiences, you start having a trust in all of these things that you've been reading about now. And when you start dipping your toe in it, you realize, oh wow, these magical things are just happening. You start getting more curious about it, and maybe experiencing a little bit more and a little bit more. And you get at the stage that I'm in now. I have had so many just impossible experiences, or yeah, just not your typical experience, that it's impossible that anybody who was in my shoes would feel the same way. It's like there is so much more that we can't see or feel with the five senses, and I know it to be true. And it's not about, it's nice if people again experience it. I mean, I can say this to somebody, but it's nice when they experience it, then they believe it, right? Seeing is believing, or experiencing is also believing. Chuck, I don't know how you feel about things like ayahuasca, and but I've done that many times, and that's also an experience that is, unless you've had it, you can't explain it. It actually diminishes the experience. Um, you can edit that out. I'm sorry to include that, but that's an example of something, that's an experience that you can't deny. Once you've had it. But likewise, there's other things that it's nice that people start having more and more these spiritual experiences, because this whole movement of humanity elevating, the human consciousness, is a grassroots movement, is a movement that's going to start with the individuals. And it's those individuals that have had similar experience that are going to start talking to each other, talking to other people, and also leading by example, by having really great lives and just enjoying their lives, and other people looking at them and saying, well, how did you achieve all of that? And I'm recently getting in touch with people that actually are very successful in life. Lots of money, lots of great jobs, great families. And often we look at these people and we think, they probably come from this kind of family, or they were lucky. And I'm finding that a lot of these people are very, very spiritual, and they've just were
Yes.
able to figure it out. They're following their passion, they're following their highest excitement, and things are aligning for them in this way. It's a law of attraction. And so it's great when people start experiencing it. So seek out those experiences and have them in your life, and see how it actually affects you, and start it wherever it is that you want to start. But start experiencing. There's enough theory out there. You don't need another book, you don't need anything else. You need to start actually doing the work and experiencing it. And it really starts with quieting the mind, and that's why I think meditation is absolutely crucial. And just also trying to have a pretty balanced life, and try and sort of get your life, your ducks in a row, so to speak. Take care of your body, take care of your family, and as much as you can. Obviously, it's not about being perfect, but I think meditation is kind of a must for me, or some sort of quieting the mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Meditation in a variety of forms has certainly played a large part in my journey as well. And I think one of the things that I did also that I think is a very powerful thing to do is to get yourself into the exploration of dream time.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the things, and it kind of depends on the person. But what's nice about dream time too is that you already think that it's something different than regular consciousness, so you will allow things to happen there that people won't necessarily allow to happen here. It's different if you use something that aids you in that, ayahuasca being one of them, right? And there are a number, that can be used that can really help to move beyond the barriers that we kind of naturally put in place for ourselves as we have this experience. There are like, and they're not solid walls, but they are like these buffer zones of consciousness that keep us contained, shall we say, within a particular type of an experience. And so there are certain substances that we've provided for ourselves here that you can use to help you move beyond those things. But the thing that I've come to understand too is that those experiences can just spontaneously happen. And some of those have
Yeah.
happened for me because
Yeah.
there are individuals that will say, well, okay, so this plant or whatever it might happen to be has altered your neurochemistry. And so you've had this experience that's really just about the neurochemistry being altered, and it's not actually a shift in consciousness. But I've had experiences that are like what people will talk about when they do things like that. And I was doing nothing but looking over a landscape when I had the experience. There was nothing else in my system whatsoever, right? And I've had so many experiences that have given me information about what's about to happen in quote unquote regular reality the next day, the next week. And I mean, very specific stuff that's gone on, things that, you would never be able to guess was about to happen.
Mm.
Things that, and, and information that, when you start to understand the connectivity that people have with each other, you also find that distance, like right now, in regular consciousness terms, you and I are many, many miles apart, but that means nothing to consciousness. We can be in conversation with another individual. They can be having some difficulty in your life, and either one of us could get information about what it is that's challenging that person in the moment, share that with them, and it would be right on because distance means nothing in consciousness. Consciousness flows through everything. It doesn't really make any difference. And so,
So, Chuck, if I could
for me in
share
my journey,
talking about
go
consciousness,
ahead.
I just watched a documentary which I highly recommend people watch. It's called Awakening Mind, and it talks about what comes first, consciousness or time-space reality. Because if you think about, if you believe that time and space comes first, then obviously when you die, then everything dies. It's your, it's a physical existence. But if you believe that consciousness comes first and then from that comes time space reality, then time and space can die, but the consciousness still exists. So that's the thing, which one is first? So understanding that first there's consciousness and then everything else that we experience is quite interesting, because this physical world is just a part of our consciousness, and as but there's so many other levels, and when you start tapping into those other levels, then you realize that, okay, this physical reality is an experience I'm having, and but I could go here, 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 here. And it's a fascinating way to look at things. My dad is a diehard scientist and is very interested, because we're absolute polar opposites. But he's a serious scientist. He's written many books and things like that. We have this discussion, and I think it boils down to that. His belief is that there is time and space, and the universe. And when I talk to him about channeling and extra dimensional beings, he keeps asking me the question, well, how come they can get here? Light is the fastest thing. It would take so long. And and I say to him, Dad, that's if you believe that that's the the basis of everything is this time and space reality. But if you believe that comes after consciousness, then it's completely different. It changes the game on everything. And so we're still not seeing eye to eye. But I think it's important to think that like the physicality is a part of consciousness, not the other way around.
One of the things, for those individuals that are a little bit more scientifically oriented, that is kind of nice to know is out there is this exploration that's called quantum physics.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that those individuals started to understand is that there's a phenomenon that's called the observer effect. And what that's about is when you observe anything, regardless of what it is, what individuals who explore existence at that level of energy have come to understand is that energy shifts and changes and coalesces in a particular way only when you're interacting with it. And it provides you then with an experience. And it's called the observer effect, right? And that observer effect is different for each individual. They have their own experience with what's going on. So many people understand that, the things that make up, your desk or your mic or your cup or your clothes or whatever are these things called molecules. And maybe they understand that those molecules are made up of this stuff called atoms, right? In the way that we phrase things, right? Particles. And then there are smaller particles that make up those atoms. And then there's just energy that then becomes all of that. And that energy is shifting and moving all the time. And if you have a depth of this understanding, understand that really consciousness and energy are, for the most part, synonymous, right? One is an expression of the other. And so when you have an understanding of how things move, and there's an interesting thing too that I've come to understand through my own exploration and how I've seen things move with me and in being observant with that, is that the way that consciousness will do things for you, because really within the field of all of consciousness, all experiences are valid. So consciousness, all of consciousness, is not really so concerned about what experience you're having, because consciousness embraces all experience. So what it does for you is it says, okay, what kind of an experience would you like to have? What beliefs do you want to use? And then what it does is it provides you proof that what you believe is true is actually true. It will
Yeah.
bring to you the experiences that reinforce what it is that you believe. Now, if what you've done in your life is changed your beliefs and sometimes purposely pointed yourself in different directions and see life shift and move when you do that, then you understand, hey, what's going on here? What's the mechanisms behind the experience that I'm having, right? And you start to understand that there is a way in which consciousness presents itself within our experiences. And as you become familiar with that, then you understand why things are experienced by people in certain venues. And that, yes, of course, they are going to believe that's very much the way that things work because there's nothing around them that disclaims that that isn't true. But that's the way that it works, And so it's only through the observation of that you begin to understand that in fact is the way that consciousness does things, that it's so very malleable for you. It will mold itself into whatever it is you believe it should be in that moment, in part.
Mm.
A lot of times it gives you these little nigglings, this little tap on the shoulder, that says, hey, there's a little bit more here than what you think is here. But by and large, like you said, there's free will. It will allow you to have the experience that you want to have. And so it will be reinforced. If you think things are just about
Yeah.
that, then yeah, that's the world that it will show you.
And yeah, and like you said, it's your belief, right? It's if you believe it, the universe will show you proof that it is so. And so be careful what you believe in. And a lot of these beliefs don't really necessarily come from us. They come from our society, they come from our parents, they come the way things are.
Right.
And if you think about it, we are so conditioned by so many things around us, and we believe it. Like even religion, some people grow up in a Christian environment or a Jewish or a Muslim or whatever, and they will believe that. And had they been born in another family, they would have believed something completely different. Our societies are
Yes.
also very different. I live in South Africa. There's certain beliefs here that are different to yours. And so we need to really check where our beliefs come from. Are they coming from my parents, my society, my country, or are they real beliefs that I hold inside for myself? And question those beliefs, and especially the beliefs about yourself. You are this, you are that. Am I this? Am I that? Who told me that I'm this and I'm that? Is this really like that? Who told me? Like that person is a mean person. Are they a mean person? I don't know. Who told me? So it's super important to again take some time out. People don't do this because our lives are so busy, but it's actually important to sit down and think, what do I believe? Is there a belief here that is not serving me, that's not true? Is there a belief that I should change? And in terms of changing your beliefs, because remember, your beliefs do create your reality, and if you want to change your reality, you have to change your beliefs first. And sometimes I know that it's hard for people to change the beliefs, because, especially beliefs about themselves, because they might say, well, I'm not smart. Well, yeah, how can I change that? Because I'm not. And that telling of themselves they're not smart has created this thing that they're not, and they've seen proof that they're not, because they failed at this and they failed at that, and the universe has shown them that they're not smart. But that could have come from when they were a child. And so it's about reframing that and saying, well, I am smart because look what I've done here. And finding examples to change that belief. But I did this, but I did that. And also honing in, or like focusing on the beliefs that you want to enhance. Well, I'm a kind person. Well, I've got proof of that. Okay, cool. So tell yourself that you're a kind person, and you will see that there's so many examples that you're a kind person. And likewise, any sort of belief. Like one belief that I have is that humans are really good people. Like we're wonderful, caring, loving human beings, and I see it all the time. And there's so many people that have the belief that human beings are just not that they're like, just in general, like bad people, and they're selfish, and they're like whatever it might be. But in fact, it's one of my New Year's resolutions, to see the goodness in everybody, because even though there might not be people that I might be friends with or go out for coffee, there's always so much goodness in every single person. And sometimes, if it doesn't come through like straight away, it's because they probably had a pretty hard past or childhood or something, and so you become more understanding. But you can find amazing qualities of people if you just look. I mean, it really just takes that intention. Like, okay, I'm gonna see. I know, because I've been doing it the last few weeks. I'm going to see the goodness in everybody. So I just go and buy something at the shop, and I look at this lady, and she might be a bit frustrated, but like I start talking to her, and I can already see what she's like, the goodness in her. And so that's how I'm creating my own reality. I've decided that I want to see that in people, and I'm seeing it all around me. And I realize, oh my gosh, people are just awesome, right? Now, if you got the different belief that people are, I don't know, selfish, and if you have that belief and you go and start speaking to somebody from that perspective, I promise you, you will see it straight away, and you'll have proof that, oh, you see, I told you so. They are selfish. So yeah, I think looking at our belief system is so important. Changing beliefs that we would like change to create the reality that we want is crucial. And I think tied into that is, people do not take enough time to actually think about these things. They might listen also to this podcast, or they might listen to or read a book or watch a documentary, but they don't go afterwards and sit for a while with a book by themselves and actually do the work. Like, okay, what do I want? What do I believe? What must I change? Like, nobody does this. Well, people do it, but not a lot of people do it. I mean, sometimes in New Year's, like, people tend to have that intention, but taking time out, and I would say if you can, like, take a whole weekend out. I once went to Zanzibar, this island in Africa, to do just that. And I went there for a week with a literally a blank book, and I was like, what is it that I want? And I did it into sections, and I really thought about it, like, because again, like, if you don't think about what you want, you're going to just be carried to wherever the river's flowing, you know what I mean, like, with circumstances and situations. But if you have a much clearer idea and you realize what beliefs have created that, what beliefs you got to change, it really, it's just so much better. And it's actually quite a pleasure to do this. It feels really good to do this exercise. To try it. If you're listening to this, please try it. It could be an hour, 2 hours, half a day, a whole day, whatever it might be, but like, actually do the work. It will make a huge difference in your life.
Yeah, I like that idea. And one of the things that I've learned to add to that is not only what do I want, but why do I want that? And it comes back to, how it is that you see yourself many times, and the idea that, when we talk about recognizing the beliefs that we're using in our life, the influences that we've had, one of the things that I like is that as you're going through your life, if you're feeling weighed down by certain things in your life, by certain ways of doing things, certain ways of thinking about things, certain experiences that you're having, I think you can pretty much be assured that the beliefs that are working in the background in regard to those things are things that you were influenced by. They came from somebody else. You picked them up either through your family or through somebody else that was important to you someplace. Somebody influenced you in a particular way that led to you strongly thinking about believing in things in a particular way. And it shifted the way that you did things. And sometimes there's a concept that, well, it can be very difficult to change beliefs, to shift and move your beliefs. And what I like to do is, in this country anyway, there's a couple of beliefs that we have as when we're very young that after a while, you just get information that makes you understand, well, it's not really exactly that way. And you walk beyond them relatively easily. One of those is Santa Claus. When you're a kid, you're convinced that there's this individual in the United States anyway, that wears this red suit that has reindeer, that delivers you presents, on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And you're totally into that, and then as you get, to be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it might happen to be, you become to understand through the information that you gather that it's not necessarily like that. The Easter Bunny is like that as well, right? Or maybe a belief that you can't ride a bike until you practice riding the bike, right? Or you have individuals that in one part of their life, they lean in a particular political direction. And then because they've shifted their life and they've changed things in their life, now they lean in another direction, where before they were so very animate about the rightness of that first political way that I would never change. There's no way, it's a very strong belief. So really, people change their beliefs all the time. You're always doing it. All you have to do is kind of look at your life to see that, yes, in fact, I've changed beliefs many, many, many times in many things. It's not really a super difficult thing to do. And when you understand that, in fact, that is what you're doing, and that filter has such a powerful effect on your life, but there are ways that you can shift and move those so that you can align yourself with different ways of seeing things. One of the things that I like about the internet now and social media and the ability to see all the things that are going on around the world is you get to see so many examples. All you have to do is search them. So many examples of individuals who've started a life one particular way and now live a very nice life. They could have been born in whatever city you want to say in very, very challenging situations. And now they're doing something completely different in their life, or they live a lifestyle that's whatever it is you might want to say. They're African American, they're gay, they're lesbian, they're trans, they're whatever it might happen to be, right? There's almost always examples, especially as we have those things in our society for certain lengths of time, that you can find of individuals that are thriving as they have made those choices in their life. Their life is not about challenge and suppression and things of that nature. Their life is very nice, right? Because they've approached it in a particular way. They look at their life the same way. In other words, they're a gay individual, an individual of color, whatever it happens to be. But that doesn't make any difference because they're not focused on the negativity beyond what's going on with that. They're focused on, well, what do I want to do with my life? How do I want to live my life? That's not a hindrance to what I want to do in my life. And they go out and they live their life. And they
Yeah.
realize that in their life then, right? And so what I see happening is I see more and more individuals that are beginning to express from those positions that very concept that really you can let this stuff hold you back, right? You can look for how it potentially is holding you back out there. And as we've already discussed, you'll see it then, of course, or you can choose a different path. You can choose to
Yeah.
say, yeah, okay, this is my preferences. It doesn't make any difference. I have the
Yeah.
total freedom to move forward and have whatever kind of life I want to have, regardless of what my preferences are. And then that will be the kind of experience that you have in life. And with our ability to go online and to search now, you can find a huge number of examples of when that exact thing has happened. So if you
Yeah.
just want to take the time, regardless of where you are, regardless of what you want to do that, you'll find tons of examples of individuals that have done that now. So it's not just
Yeah.
somebody saying, yeah, okay, you can do this. You can actually go out and see those examples. And you can go, okay, now might it be a little bit of work at first? Sure. You've got to move beyond some things. Absolutely. But you can do it. It's there to be done, and other people have done it. There's nothing special, I'm going to suggest, about them. They don't have anything within them that you don't have within you. If they can do it, I promise you, the potential is there for you to be able to do it also. All you have to do
Yeah.
is not give up on where you want to go.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And I think tied into that is also being conscious of where it is that you want to go as well, right? So, once again, taking some time out to think, okay, well, in my family life, in my health, in my financials, in my work, in my friends, where do I want to be? I think that's like you have to start there as well. I A lot of people focus on money, but okay, let's just focus on money. But if you want to be earning a certain amount of money, how much is it that you want to? I actually know that there's a limit to how much I do want more, but there's a limit. So I know that. And what would I want to have, in my business to reach that? Okay, then I know that you have to start there, like knowing where you want to go and taking some time out to literally write it down on a piece of paper. And don't worry if it's not perfect. I know, don't worry if you forget about it and you come back to it, but at least you've done it. And obviously the more often you look at that, the better. And then as you were saying, just looking for proof of other people that have maybe been in your situation that have managed to do that. It's full, like you say, it's just really, really full of examples. And then start changing those beliefs and being compassionate with yourself and just going one step at a time and knowing that absolutely everything is possible. You are creating it all. And it's actually so nice and liberating when you know you're creating it all, because it really empowers you. You know that you have the power to create this. You're not a victim to anyone as much as you think that you might be. And I know it's hard for some people to believe that, because they've had such terrible experiences happen to them. But you still have the choice today to stay or go, to do or not do it, to write something or not write it, to take the time to write your goals or not. You might be listening to this and you think, oh, it's wonderful, but then you're not going to go and write your goals. You're not going to go and change your beliefs. You've also had your choice there. You've also decided, or you want to watch TV, fine. That it's your choice. So we are really masters of our own reality. We are in control. We are the actors in this our own movies. So just make the movie that you want to make. You have this one life, make it the best, whatever that is for you, and and have fun in the process. It's not so serious either. It's supposed to be fun and light and
Absolutely.
enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about, what you were saying is that, you know, I think it's important that you need to do something to open the doors, to get the ball rolling, whatever metaphor you would like to use. And then one of the things that I like to do too is that I know that there's an aspect of me in there that sees the entirety of the picture. And I only see kind
Mm,
of a relatively slim little bit of that picture, right? And so
right.
then what I do is I go, okay, I want to head in this direction, but I don't try to hang too tightly on how that should actually occur. I allow that
Mm,
part of me that sees everything to bring things into my existence. And they might be very surprising things sometimes. And,
yes.
you know, what I try to do with that is I go, okay, does this really feel like it's something that matches the way that I want my life to feel in this particular moment? It's like, does it
Mm,
feel like it's something that's hindering? Does it feel like it's something that's exciting? Am I curious about this? Is it something that, adds to, how things are feeling to me in whatever way, shape, or form that might happen to be? And there's other forms of information, of course, that show up as well. So, I love that idea of beginning that ball rolling by saying, okay, I need to open some doors. What are you going to do to open some doors? Whether it's journaling or writing things down, like you said, or whatever it might happen to be, envisioning things or whatever. Take some steps, right? And then for me, it's about, okay, and then the inner me starts adding to that. It starts providing experiences that come my way that even in the moment, it might not see like it's going to open the door, but maybe it helps me move beyond a sticking point that then allows a door to open that wouldn't have opened unless I had done that, or whatever might happen to be.
yeah.
It's that part we were talking about before, that as you become more familiar with the interaction that happens between this expression of you and all of what you are, you learn to trust that in a much more deep way. And you learn to
Yeah.
recognize as it's showing up in your life as well. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't so much become us thinking that we need to control all the various ways that this movement happens in our life, because in that, a lot of times we have a very narrow experience. And when we look at what other people have done, so many times that's not what happened in their life. Individuals come into their lives and help them with projects. They suggest projects. There's all sorts of interaction that happened in those people's lives, and they were
Yeah.
in a place where they just joined in with whatever that was. They were excited
Yeah.
about that. People came and they said, yeah, I want to try that. Yes, let's do that. Yeah. Okay. And it led to expansion and more expansion and more expansion, different venues opening up and things of that nature. So I like those
Right.
components of those things also. I love how, as we begin the process, I'll just say the universe maybe, or creation, or the inner us, whatever you want to say,
Mhm.
starts to lend a hand more and more all the time. And so it becomes
Yeah.
a very nice flow, in that regard.
Mm.
So yeah, I like
Yes,
that a
very.
lot.
And I love that. And I love you're so right. It also ties in when you write your goals and things, more so than what thing you want and how you want to get it, is what ultimately, how do you want to feel when you've got that thing? Let's say if you're looking at a
Right.
relationship, and somebody, I really want to be in a relationship, or really want to have a husband or a wife, and he has to have all of these things, but ultimately you're looking for a feeling of, I want to be loved, I want to love, I want to feel appreciated, I want to I don't know, I want to care for someone, I want to feel, and so that's a better thing to focus on, right? That feeling that you want. I often also close my eyes and feel what it would feel like to have that thing that I want to have. Not necessarily how it's going to go about. It's like, if it's a relationship, I know with some friends are so specific, and that's also okay in a way, but how that's going to evolve, just let it flow, because most of life is in a way accidental. Most of life just will happen to you. And if you're so specific about how you want something, you're so limiting yourself, because there's a million and one ways in which it could happen. And you will be limiting yourself, because you're so there that something will happen here and you won't see it, because you will be like, oh no, it needs to be this way. And if you were just a bit more open, you'd be like, oh, but that also leads me to where I want to go. So focusing more on the feeling that you want, and not necessarily so much on the specific ways of how you need to get there, is also a really good thing for people to remember, you know.
Yeah, I know that, one of the things that I've come to understand in all of this is that, like when we began our conversation earlier on, if I'm focused on the things out there to try to make my life feel the way I want it to feel, it's really not going to happen that way. What I want to do is I want to make myself, through my own understanding of me and my interaction with everything around me, I want to bring that feeling up in myself. And then what happens is that those things that naturally support that feeling state that I'm generating within myself just naturally start to come into my life. More and more and more of that shows up in my life. It's not that, I want this so that I can feel this way. I want that because I can feel this way. Because what those do is they say, again, it's the outside world that is the key to why things are happening in your life, when really that's not what's going on. It's like, okay, so how do I choose to feel about me? How do I choose to feel about my existence? You continue to express that more and more and more all the time, and things just naturally start to come into your life that are a continuation of how you feel about yourself all the time, about how you view life, how you interact, like you were saying, how you choose to go out and meet people, how you choose to see them when you interact with them, right? Well, that changes everything in your experience. It brings you different experiences than you would have had otherwise, because you made this inner choice about what you want to do with your existence, And as we continue to do those things, those doors open up for experiences that show up in our life that are just part of that flow. They're not
Yeah.
something that we have to point at and go, okay, I want that for that reason. I want that for that reason. And again, sometimes, we limit things, like those individuals who make a list about what they need and why they need a particular thing, is that a lot of times those particular lists come from places where we think there's something missing within us, and when we realize that none of that actually occurs, and we're expressing ourselves from a place of fullness, then what we see is we see a reality that supports that particular outlook on our existence, and things just kind of show up in your life, like you say, spontaneously, out of the blue, whatever it might happen to be. And so that's very, very nice.
Right.
So I think that we have had a very nice discussion here today.
Yeah, lovely. We could sit and chat forever.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that there will probably be some times that I think that the two of us will get together again and do a little bit of this. I know
I'd
that
love
you
to.
certainly have some things that you have going on in your quote unquote physical future. And so I think that at this moment, we'll tie things up for everybody. And we'll say, okay, we'll just kind of make this where our chat's going to end today. So I think that at this time, maybe what we'll do is we'll tie this up, and we'll just say this may be continued at another time. Uh, and certainly, if there are individuals who have questions or something like that that comes up, of course, there is the ability to send emails my direction. They can probably get in touch with you through Orykl, especially if there are things they want to do in that regard. But yeah, but I think at this moment, I know that we can probably say, okay, this is where we're gonna hit the stop button.
Sure, sure. Well, thanks, Jack. So it's so lovely chatting with you. I do love the subject. I think it's just a lot more interesting than some of the things that we do on our everyday lives. It's just so vast, and there's just so much to it. It gives us depth. It gets us to get to know ourselves a little bit better. It gets us to create again the life that we want. And I think it's so important. It's so nice for people to hear this and to create more dialogue with their friends and family about these subjects and things, and to start watching more, whether it's YouTubes or documentaries, and to start really living a more spiritual life. It's just, it's more fulfilling, it's more full, it's more, yeah, it's just more rich. So I love it. I love what you're doing. Thank you for having me. And as you say, I mean, I run a platform for channelers, so I'm very much into the whole spiritual world, and anyone can reach me through that, through Orykl. So thank you for the opportunity. It's wonderful to speak with you.
You too. Yeah. Take care.
Thank you.